And welcome in everybody to another episode of the High Low Sports Podcast. We appreciate y'all for joining us here on this NFL draft eve, or if you were, watching us the day of the draft, or for some reason afterwards. Either way, it is going to be a whole lot of fun. It is DJ joined as always by my co-host Kelcey for one of our favorite episodes of the year. It is the final mock draft of the 2025 NFL draft season. In 24 hours, the first pick will hopefully already be in at this point, because we're about 11 minutes in. So hopefully the first pick will be done, and we will be live covering the draft, and I can't wait. And this mock draft is going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, this is honestly one of our favorite shows. Think about back, 5 years ago. We were getting ready for this in Cleveland, ironically, for the draft. Kind of a turning point for us in what we were doing. We were already, pushing it, but that really took us into the next level. And so 5 years later, here we are, still doing the same thing. Honestly, I think this is one of my most favorite weeks because we do so much. Big boards. And by the way, we're still cooking with like a 65% success rate on our top 50 big boards over the years. So still got that to go for us. But, honestly, this is going to be a lot of fun. I love this last final mock draft before, we actually hit the stream and hit the draft tomorrow. And then 3 full days full of what's going on in a lot of cases. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to knock out this last mock draft at least.
For the next 100 hours, all 32 teams are going to be trying to change their future for the better and transform themselves basically in the blink of an eye. But before we get to that, we're going to try and transform their teams with what we would do. That is right. This mock draft, we will be rotating. Kelcey will take the odd numbers. I will take the even numbers. We will include trades just for the fun of it within reason. And instead of trying to predict what will happen, we're going to try and predict we're going to say what we would do if the board fell this way, with a sense of realism, not going too dramatically outside of the realm of expected, especially at number one, where we kind of have an idea where that's going to go. But for the most part, we're going to do what we would do in these positions, as well as a little bit of what we think could happen too. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this first mock draft brought to you by SeatGeek. Code Belly Sports, get yourself $10 off your first set of tickets. So Kelcey, you are officially on the clock, number one overall as the GM of the Tennessee Titans.
Man, I'd love this job. Let me tell you, get a new stadium coming in the next couple of years. Have some pretty good pieces. You still need some work, but you know what you're going to go and do this draft? Don't overthink this. You're going number one. You're going with the best quarterback last year, one of the best quarterbacks last year, and that's Cam Ward. I think he's sitting there on the board. He's proven his worth since he was at Incarnate Word. He proved it at Washington State. He proved it again at Miami, just how good he is. He's one of those guys you just sit there and root for. He's been a success story for what NIL and the transfer portal can be in college football. He is the success story, and seeing his success story, I think, capitalize here. Number one overall, it just makes sense. So give me Cam Ward, number one overall.
And they suddenly no longer have the worst quarterback room in the AFC South. And those of you who do see the second round picks populating, we're only doing the first round. Those are there in hopes that the mock draft simulator doesn't glitch out if we do try and do a trade. Because sometimes when you only have first round selected, it is a pain in the you-know-what when it comes to trade. So don't worry, we're only doing the first round. But that's going to take me to my first pick. That is the GM of the Cleveland Browns at number 2. In the same vein, I don't care about the rumors. I know they're listening to phone calls about potentially trading back. I don't think they're going to get what they want, though. So we're going to have them stick and pick here. You have a lot of needs. There's not really a quarterback there for you. So you're going to take the best available player in corner/receiver/football player, Travis Hunter, to hopefully fill 2 needs for you, at least 1.5. So they take the best player on the board, arguably at number 2.
That makes sense. I don't think you should overthink that one at all. But that leaves the Giants here, number 3 overall. Well, what do you need? You need a quarterback. You need some offensive line help. You need some defensive help. Well, there just so happens to be a really great pass rusher there, but you just got a really good pass rusher. Is that really where you want to go if you're the Giants? So I'm gonna do a wild thing. I told you beforehand. I don't know if I had any trades in mind, but this one's just sitting here in the back of my head, cooking, and I don't know if the Giants are stupid enough to do this again. But you know what? Why not? Let's see what they do. Giants and Philly trade. And Philly moves up to the 3 spot here to make the shocking pick of, you probably have to give them a couple first rounds here. But they're going to end up giving up A.J. Brown to go to New York, which I don't think is going to be the case of happening. It's a rumor that we're hearing around. We're going to cook with it, though. We're just going to roll with this one. All right, and they're going to...
In-division trade is what you're telling me.
Yeah, why not? The Giants are stupid enough. They've already given up Saquon to the Eagles at this point in time. Maybe you're going to give up something stupid else. I'm regretting this decision already. But we're going to roll
It's
with
not too
Abdul
late to
Carter
hit
here.
restart. I can hit restart.
You know what? Yeah, just we'll turn this one over. Let's go back. I honestly I was hoping Jared's watching just so I can get a comment out of him, and I might have. Let's see, but we'll see. No, we're not.
All right,
Um,
so we'll go ahead and we'll get right back
yeah.
where we were. That was fine. We tried to set off the Jared alarms, but unfortunately to no luck. But
All
you
right.
are here at pick number 3 with the Giants. We're official now, guys. The
Yeah. Pick
April
number
Fools
3.
is
We're
over.
back. Yeah, I think this one you got to go offensive line. I think they're gonna go Will Campbell offensive line here. Just makes sense. If they're gonna stick and pick, I think it's Will Campbell.
You know what? Everyone's going to talk about, do they take Abdul Carter when you have Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and the defensive line's the one good part of your team? Do they trade Kayvon Thibodeau, et cetera? I don't. I feel like taking Will Campbell's a good spot here because when Andrew
Yeah.
Thomas is healthy, he's elite. Evan Neal, you can't play, unfortunately.
Yep.
John Michael Schmitz is a really good interior lineman when healthy. This just kind of fortifies it because you're not going to take your quarterback at 3 most likely. So I don't mind the Will
Not at this
Campbell pick.
point. Like I don't
Like
think
that.
I don't think they're gonna reach for Shador here. I just that doesn't make sense to me. And it's just one of those things like with Campbell, there's all this talk about his arms being too short. Yeah, maybe they are. Maybe they slide him into guard, and then you have a long term stack at guard if Evan Neal doesn't work out, and you slide out Campbell out to the tackle. Like you're set that well. But I think it's a situation where why not? If you're the Giants, you got to protect whoever you end up with at quarterback.
You know what? It worked out for Zach Martin pretty well, so it's not a bad idea. Which is going to take us to New England at number 4. And with how this board fell, New England, they need offense very badly because it's Drake May and please save us on offense. They spent a lot of money on defense. Mike Vrabel came in. Abdul Carter's right there, and it makes a ton of sense. But they spent so much money on defense, they need to help Drake May. And Will Campbell's off the board. So we are going to actually bring out a trade, and this one's not an April Fool's joke. We have a trade here. This is where we're going to get a little fun. They're not going to go too far back, though. What we're going to have is the Chicago Bears making a move here. They got a couple extra second. They got the extra Carolina second round pick, so they can throw that in there, and they're not missing a whole lot. You can see they give up. Well, there's 39 or 41. You're talking 6 and one and half a dozen the other. Don't have to give up a whole lot. They're going to climb up the board, and they are going to take Abdul Carter to pair with Montez Sweat and add to that defensive line. So they get someone a bookend, cheap deal, could play a little off ball, and Ben Johnson knows exactly what Jared Goff and that offense is capable of in Detroit. He knows exactly what the Vikings are capable of, and he knows exactly what Green Bay is capable of, having been the offense coordinator in Detroit. So he's like, you know what? Don't get me wrong. I thought about Ashton Genty right here, too, just so we could have that two-headed running back. I thought about it, but I think he's going to look at him and Montez Sweat. If you double-team Montez Sweat, Abdul's going to cook and vice versa. So while Caleb is learning, we're going to go kill their quarterbacks. That's going to be his thought process. And 5 years on a rookie deal of Abdul Carter, yes, please. That's hard to turn down.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. And that's one of those, like, you sit there and weigh the options and you look at what you need. Abdul Carter just makes sense. Jacksonville sitting here, they want to go defense. Abdul Carter just went off the board. Next best is Mason Graham. I don't think this is a big brain decision to go Mason Graham here. I think you just stick and pick with Graham. I don't think you overthink this with Jacksonville. You need a lot. Like, at this point in time, your best option, if it's not picking Mason Graham, is to trade down to the back end of this round and try to get somebody really, really good, or get a bunch of picks. But I don't think they're going to be smart enough to do that. So we're going Mason Graham here with number 5.
We got the Raiders at pick number 6, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how annoyed would you be if I pulled off another trade right here?
On a scale of 1 to 10, a 0.
All right, we're doing another trade. Then this one's gonna be fun. Just hear me out on this one. Everyone is mocking Las Vegas to get Ashton Genty right here. That he is right there on the board. However, they're gonna get really greedy here. They're gonna make a trade with the desperate Dallas Cowboys. They're gonna bring in some extra heat here. We'll even just ignore the draft compensation. We're just doing this to push the trade through. Dallas is going to fly themselves up the board because they need themselves some Ashton Genty, because Lord knows they need it, because they need offensive help outside of CeeDee Lamb. I understand sitting there and taking Matthew Golden or Ted McMillan. Maybe you wait and get Ashton Genty or Marion Hampton. I think Jerry Jones just gets absolutely greedy. He's like, I want that. He's going to watch 2 seconds of highlight tape of Ashton Genty, like, we want that. We want that blue chip. And I think they're going to give up enough to where the Raiders consider it. I'm not going to go with the whole they throw in Micah Parsons to make this happen. We're not going to go that outlandish. But somehow they find a way. They go and get Ashton Genty. If you're the Raiders, I think they get there's an extra first round pick in there, I believe, too. Like I just push that trade through. Don't ignore the compensation. We just do that to get it through on here so the simulator doesn't break. But they get some extra picks to build long term, and they don't go that far back here. Pick 12, they can get a really good player there.
No, that makes sense. I like that a lot. Obviously, I am a free agent fan right now, but that could lean me back towards becoming a Cowboys fan real quick and in a hurry, as I do love me some Ashton Genty. But now, one guy that I will say that I have been falling further and further in love with as he beat me in all my bets this last season. Has continued. Maybe not everybody's board. Maybe there's not enough love for him. But as the Jets come up to this situation at 7, you're wondering, all right, what are you going to do? Well, you just got Justin Fields, so your quarterback, you're good. Let's hope. I'm a Justin Fields stan, so we're going to stick with that. But you need a pass catcher, and you're already hovering over it here. And I absolutely agree. It is Tyler Warren to me. I think your offensive line can be good when healthy. And so with that in mind, your next priority will be a pass catcher, and a big body pass catcher who can do it all like Tyler Warren can. Just makes a lot of sense. And so we're going to go with it, but I will say it wouldn't surprise me if we see a shock here in the draft itself and see like a Colston Loveland come off here as just a shock that would make no sense other than the fact that we've talked about it before. There are times where these guys get a big head and they're like, I think there's something more with this kid than Tyler Warren. And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But there's always the case where the chalk pick doesn't always make sense. But I'm not going there. I'm going Tyler Warren for this one.
This is a Colston Loveland Stan account, and I think he's awesome and worthy of that pick. However, he's not better than Tyler Warren as a prospect, in my opinion. That's where you get overthinking. Colston Loveland is your, well, shoot, twist my arm, I'll take him. But if Tyler Warren's right there, you don't overthink it. It's getting too greedy at that point. But pick number 8, the Carolina Panthers. They need an edge rusher to replace Brian Burns. I think they need receiver help as well. They honestly need help across the board. The offensive line is never a bad choice for them with Armin Membu and squad there. We're going to stick with kind of a chalk pick. I'm going to give him Jalen Walker, the edge out of Georgia. They just need to replace Brian Burns, honestly. They need somebody to get after Baker Mayfield, get after whoever the Saints have at quarterback, get after Michael Penix, and Jalen Walker just makes sense. So I think they'll just take the edge out of Georgia.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Linebacker a little bit too, so a little versatility.
Plus, he doesn't go very far from home. It's not very far to go from Athens to Charlotte. It's like 2 hours. He can live with that. Number 9, New Orleans. This is another one. You got a weird situation going on in New Orleans. Who's your quarterback going to be? Like, do you trust your quarterback situation there? I don't know. But I also don't know if Shedeur ends up in New Orleans. I'll say this much. If he does, he doesn't have to change very much of his color scheme from his time at Colorado. But I don't think that's the case. I think here you've surprised enough people in the NFC South before, and you've always done that with a good defense and specifically good corners. And I'm looking at Will Johnson, who we're both a big fan of. I think he makes a perfect fit here. I love how it's giving me suggestions and saying take quarterback and offensive tackle, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going Will Johnson here for New Orleans. It's just, to me, it makes a lot of sense to try to go and get that solid corner for this pick.
And you got to replace Marshawn Lattimore too. And that's a great guy to put a great prospect to fit in there. So I got New England back in number 10. It would be fun for me to trade back out with them again, just to be that guy that would just to keep moving them back. We're gonna have them stick and pick here because I think the guy they would be considering taking number 4 is sitting there right there, sitting in their face. I'm not gonna take Ted McMillan. I think he's awesome. I think Drake May would love it, but I think they're gonna go with Armin Membu, the offensive lineman out of Missouri. Arguably, if not the best offensive lineman, arguably considered the best tackle, depending on what your thoughts are on with Will Campbell's arms. Freakish athlete, Lane Johnson-esque when you get him out on the edge on screens, toss plays, stretches, etc. So they keep Drake May upright with Armin Membu, and hopefully they use the rest of the draft to give him some weapons and Mike Vrabel and go defense the rest of the way.
Yeah, no, I like that pick a lot. I think that's a really solid one. I think New England, if they're going to trade back, they're going to trade back because they know they can get their guy there at 10. And I think Membu's a guy that there's maybe a potential he gets picked before 10, but I don't know if that's true. Some people are still a little hesitant on him because he flew up boards late. So we'll see how that goes actually tomorrow. But I think that's a good pick for him for number 10 if New England trades back. Now, San Francisco doesn't look like they're going to trade anything right now. They need to try to keep everything together, and that's going to start with an offensive tackle. This is going to be Kelvin Banks in my eyes. You got to look for the future here. Trent Williams isn't going to be around for much longer. I think actually he might even be on his last year if I'm not mistaken. So Kelvin Banks just makes a lot of sense here. Go get that tackle position, get one for the future.
Absolutely. And he has a little bit of versatility. He could play right or left too. So that's a great
Yeah.
move. You start him at right, move him to left when Trent retires, or leave
He's
him at right, whatever you need.
he's as athletic as Trent is. He just needs to. Honestly, there's not a better like stereotype for him to play like other than Trent. And now I'm saying that full well, knowing just like I said about Aaron Donald, you don't necessarily teach offensive linemen to play like Trent Williams does. But Kelvin Banks fits that in a lot of ways of that type of mentality, that type of mold. So it's possible. Maybe it's a perfect fit.
Absolutely. And we got the Raiders at pick number 12. We're not moving back again. We already did that once. We're going to stick and pick. I'm going to give him Ted McMillan. I know some people love him, some people hate him. He's a little polarizing. Big body, really athletic. Just, you can move. He feels like Drake London, honestly. You could put him at excellent and be that outside receiver most of the time. Let Jacoby Myers be your Z/H, however you want to move him. But Tet can also move around as you need to. You could start him as Z. He gives Geno Smith a big body to pair with Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. So we're going to give him Tet McMillan at a better value at 12 than at 6 is why I think they're willing to trade back here. So we'll give him Tet McMillan at 12.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Now, number 13, I'll be honest and say that there's a couple questions I have for this Miami team. And I know I
Only a
love the
couple.
suggestion option on here because Jahdae Barron is one of those guys that I look at. But man, an edge sitting out there because your edges can't stay healthy, your defensive line can't stay healthy. It's an opportunity with sitting Michael Williams, who I'm not as much of a fan of, but Mike Green is sitting right there. And you know I love me some Mike Green. Top 10 guy on my board. I have a hard time saying that's not the route they're going to go. But I'm going to not go with that because Jahdae Barron is such a stud at corner. If not for Will Johnson's abilities on the field, I'd say Jahdae Barron has climbed himself into the top cornerback conversation. And for Miami, I think you need to get there again. You need these solid corners again. You just got rid of half of your secondary in the offseason. You need to get some talent back, and especially considering there's a lot of questions on the offensive side going forward. Maybe you just want to try to solidify a defensive position here. And I think Jahdae Barron's that guy to solidify it. Unfortunately, they got rid of Javon Holland, who I thought could have slid next to us, but put Jahdae Barron right there. I think there's an opportunity. You still have Jalen, at least for another 6 months. So let's see if it works out.
You know what? I like that. You could put him in the nickel. He could play a little bit of that Brian Branch safety rule. You can move him however. He can move all over the field for you. He's a very
Yeah.
good and a very smart player. So next we got the Colts, who we're going to start with what I think they end up will be doing because of who their GM is. They take Shamar Stewart at this point. They take another defensive lineman in the top with one of their first 2 round picks for the 7th time in 8 years or something ridiculous, and none of them really ever amount to what you give up for them. But however, we're saying what I would do here, and we've Jahad Campbell makes a ton of sense too. Linebackers, an outstanding pick. All their linebackers come in like the 7th round for the most part. So I think they're going to forego that. The arrogance will kick in there. Colston Loveland is right there. You have no quarterback, so you need as many weapons as you possibly can to try and make one of them look halfway decent. I stand by Colston Loveland's a top 10 player, and if it wasn't for Tyler Warren, he would be comfortably the number 1 tight end. And if it wasn't for Brock Bowers last year and Tyler Warren this year, I'd say he's the best tight end prospect we've seen since Kyle Pitts. And I think he's in that conversation with those 3, maybe at the bottom end of it, but I still think he's awesome. A lot of Sam Laporte in his game. They won't overthink this. They will bring in Colston Loveland to give a viable tight end option in Indianapolis for the first time since we were not grown adults, arguably.
Oh, it's getting there. I was getting to the end of my high school career when Dallas was still there.
Yeah, it's been 4 score many, many moons ago. So Colston Loveland doesn't have to leave Big Ten country. We'll go to the Colts.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Next up is Atlanta. Now, Atlanta is a weird thing because historically they don't pick wide receivers in the first round unless they're home runs. And as much as I like Matthew Golden, I don't know if he's a home run. He's not a Julio Jones, and that's what I'm alluding to. So I think here they run to the table and they hand over that card and it says Mike Green on it, and they're super excited because they just get one of the best faster edges that are on the board, and I think he's going to be underrated, but he's going to work perfectly in that NFC South.
Absolutely. And I think a couple of these teams behind them are kicking themselves like, we should have tried to move up. Because I think right around here is where Mike Green, that's a good spot for him to go.
Yeah.
Arizona pick 16 was very much in the Mike Green sweepstakes, I'd imagine. I think they were looking at that one like, dang, we kind of wish we'd have got him. But looking at them, I don't really love a lot of the corners there. I do think defensive line is a good need for him. Derek Carmen is awesome. Look at this defensive line class. There's like 4 first-round picks still on the board. We've already taken 2 guys off. Like, it's an outstanding class. I think this is where we can start to see a little bit of the run begin. I'm going to give him Walter Nolan, credible athlete out of Mississippi, credible first step, the twitchiest, most athletic defensive tackle. Jonathan Gannon's going to be like, you are going to be my Fletcher Cox, like what I had in Philadelphia for a while. Go kill quarterback. Go chase down Brock Purdy. Go chase Sam Darnold. Go chase Matthew Stafford, who's not running much anymore. So, Walter Nolan, you are heading to Arizona.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Which is a shame because I thought Walter Nolan would be a perfect fit here. And as you're looking at it, now we move to Cincinnati. I think, obviously, defensive tackle, defensive line, edges, they all just make sense for Cincinnati. You just stirred up your offense for the next 5 years. You're good. Now you just got to figure out the defense. The problem is with defense is you have 3 positions, like I just rattled off: defensive tackle, defensive line, safety, corner, 4 positions technically. But I think you don't overthink this one. You go Shamar Stewart here, get the edge from Texas. I don't like Mykel Williams as much as everybody else, so that's why I'm not putting him there. I think Shamar Stewart is a more polished position, which Cincinnati needs now, rather than the Mykel Williams, which is kind of a little raw still. I look at a few guys that they've had in the past in Walker and both Walkers that have been drafted in the last 2 years from Georgia. They still needed projects. I look at Mykel Williams as a little bit of a project still. Shamar Stewart, though, I think is ready to go.
And if you can keep Trey Hendrickson to pair with him too, that gives you a nice dynamic duo and somebody to learn with. When you add Shamar Stewart's ridiculous athleticism, learning from a technician and a tenacious guy like Trey Hendrickson, that's a very good duo also. Next up, we got Seattle at pick number 18. It's saying that it wants me to push Shedeur here. And that would be kind of interesting, have him sit behind Sam Darnold. Like, it would make a little bit of sense, but we're not going to do it. We're going to pass on that. I'm going to scroll down the board a little bit. I feel like they're also very much in potentially would be willing to trade back territory here as well. I really think they are, but we're going to go and stick in picks. There isn't really a trade back option that I love. So what we're going to do, this one's a tough one because the way the board fell, I don't really love it for them. We're going to go ahead and give them Malachi Starks. I think they're going to try and build up that secondary even more. Devin Witherspoon, you now bring in Malachi Starks. You just have guys that could take the ball away. McDonald's a big defensive coach from Baltimore, came over. I think there's a lot of players that are on the board that are within reason for him. I think they're just going to take Malachi Starks. Just go play center field and take the ball away. Go be Earl Thomas-esque for us really quick. So we'll take Malachi Starks here.
That makes sense. I like that a lot, actually, for him. Now, I will say this for this pick coming up for Tampa Bay. This is where I start questioning my trading ability and my trade potential. And specifically, and it's crazy because there's 2 picks away that I'm looking at going and trading with Pittsburgh. But I think Pittsburgh's in that position where if they don't trade up with a team like Tampa, who we know is not going to take their position, and who's not in the same division, who's not even in the same conference, that is the opportunity to jump up there and sneak in ahead of one of these teams that maybe pass on a quarterback early. So give me Pittsburgh trading with Tampa here. And then once they do that, I think it's an easy, quick pick coming in, and you're going to get Shedeur ending up in Pittsburgh. And now you have Shedeur throwing to the dynamic duo of George Pickens and DK Metcalf. So give me Shedeur.
He did allude to it on Max Crosby's podcast. Like, the Mount Rushmore, whoever's throwing to those guys. So maybe, he might be onto something. They do climb to get him, which is going to take us to the Broncos at 20. If I'm Sean Payton, I love how this board falls because I get arguably a top 13 player in the draft to pick 20 without having to move around. At a position of need, Omarion Hampton, stud running back out of North Carolina, big, fast, strong, patient, maybe not fast, but big, strong, patient, athletic in the pass game. He's going to have a lot of fun. It's a Mark Ingram, Pierre Thomas, Alvin Kamara mixed into one type of thing. So they're going to have a lot of fun with that. So Omarion Hampton to Denver.
Yeah, and this is where that trade, Tampa is not afraid to make this trade because 2 picks away, they still have their guy. They knew that nobody was going to take him in between Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. It just fits. Again, this is one that you're like, oh, if you can move and get some extra assets, why not? And you still get your guy. It's Jahad Campbell, 10 out of 10.
Honestly, if you compare him with Levante David, you're just basically giving yourself when you had Devin White during that Super Bowl run at this point. It's a match made in heaven if he's there.
Yeah.
This is the tough one for me because if I'm the Chargers, they're probably going to take Kenneth Grant or one of the edge rushers. That's what Harbaugh, he loves the trenches. You have that Michigan connection. Maybe even Mykel Williams, Derek Harmon. Those are the Harbaugh guys. But if I'm here and I saw Justin Herbert throwing to very milquetoast players a lot of the time last year underneath, there was not a lot of speed down the field. You got Matthew Golden's 4.2 speed self, a dynamic playmaker who a lot of people have as a receiver one, not including the Travis Hunter situation. We're going to get Matthew Golden to pair with Lad McConkey. We're going to see the Chargers pass game reinvigorate just a little bit, just somewhat even a little bit. And by the way, we did have a comment that I forgot to jump on earlier from our good friend Hector. What is your draft day routine? So, Kelcey, before you get the Packers pick, which perfect timing because you know what they do host the draft this year. What is
Yeah.
your draft day routine?
My draft day routine has changed over the years. Nowadays, I literally roll in from work, grab some dinner, set up our stream, and go. But before that, really, it was like when I was invested in the draft, and I was sitting here and rooting for Dallas, 10 out of 10 out of 10. Like they're gonna hit a home run. Now, mind you, when I'm growing up watching this team, they're drafting Zach Martins, they're drafting Travis Fredericks, they're drafting guys that work. Um, and this is when I was super excited about it. So when I'd get up at those times and get up for the day, I had lucky underwear, I had a lucky undershirt, and I had a Dallas Cowboy hat that I'd always wear with everything. So I had a white Dallas Cowboy hat or a blue Dallas Cowboy hat. If the blue hat didn't work the year before, then it was the white hat's turn. I did end up spilling red Kool-Aid on it during one Super Bowl prep week. I did wash it, and it just turned a little pink. So it turned into a pink Dallas Cowboy hat, and it still worked. It actually worked even better. But that was the habit. I'd always eat the same thing. At the time, I was living in Mobile, Alabama. There was a chicken finger place called Foosackly's. I'd get Foosackly's for lunch every day, and of the draft, and prepare for it. And then I'd sit down. Look over a couple draft boards, look over a couple mocks, just run through them. And then next thing you know, draft rolls around, and yeah, it was exciting. I'd also roll through my Senior Bowl, because the Senior Bowl, if nobody knows, is in Mobile. And so I had a bunch of cards from that, and I'd roll through those and just like, oh, this guy's getting drafted. Oh, this guy's going in the first round. And like I'd mock it, like as people play with solitaire cards, I'd mock that with the Senior Bowl cards, and that are all signed, and it was super cool. Then you get the draft and just sit there and bawl my eyes out because the Cowboys disappoint me in some way, shape, or form.
It's a lot more intricate than mine was. Mine was get really good food and lock in. Mine was a lot more simple. Like there, I didn't have the lucky end to wear the lucky hat. I just locked in. But you know what? The results were the same. And now what it'll be is preparing for our fun stream tomorrow with over a dozen sports personalities join us for what will be definitely be a fun ride. And they'll be the actual picks, not our
Yeah.
mock picks. So we can guarantee that what we've done so far will not be 100%. And if it is,
We,
you know what? We are on top of it somehow. We're on top of it. But
we won't get news halfway through a mock that potentially Jacksonville and Cleveland have already traded picks. You never know. But no, so since I have Green Bay, after I do my draft prep for the day, I'm sitting here rolling with Green Bay, and I love what I'm looking at because, as I've said, not a big Michael Williams fan, but if I'm the Packers, I'm a big Michael Williams fan sitting there for me at 23. You better believe this is a great opportunity for him to get that defensive edge, get that edge rusher to go alongside what they already have in Rashawn Gary, and who is turning himself into a better NFL pro. Now, I think Michael Williams with him could be a great opportunity.
I like that. You get those pterodactyl-like arms too. There's a lot to mold there. There's a lot of talent. If you can get it all locked in, that's a dangerous player for sure. So
Yeah.
next up we got Minnesota, which I'm surprised they have defensive tackles so highly rated, considering they did just bring in Jonathan Allen in the offseason. I love Derek Harmon and Kenneth Grant. They are awesome. But we're gonna forego those and we're gonna go with the other suggestion of Nick Emenwari. You could put him at safety. You could put him at linebacker. You can line him up in some nickel spots. Brian Flores is going to have way too much fun with that. And you could line him up alongside Harrison Smith. You just lost Cam Bynum in the offseason. Nick Emenwari is just an outstanding athletic piece that can actually also play. He's very mobile in space. It's a perfect fit. Brian Flores is going to terrorize people with him.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I was honestly considering it for Green Bay, but I was like, they don't necessarily need him just yet. But Emenwari is absolutely an underrated safety, an underrated DB in this one. I think he can make himself a great pro for 10 plus years. I mean, that's an absolute opportunity. Now, Houston, on the other hand, guess what you need? And it's no surprise. I love the highlights are all linemen because I feel great about this. It's not an offensive tackle where I'm going. As much as I'd say that's a great way to go, yep, it is Gray Zabel, the guy that is flying up draft boards, who you love, I love. I think he's an outstanding offensive lineman. And for what the Texans do, he'll one, keep CJ Stroud up from the interior, but two, he can bull rush or bulldoze anybody in front of him, absolutely open up monster holes. Joe Mixon can continue his stupid stats from last year when he would actually be healthy. So yeah, give me Gray Zabel. That just too easy for me.
He's one of the guys that feels like is a unanimous first round grade from a lot of teams. The only question is when you're taking interior offensive linemen, how high are you willing to take them? But this is a perfect spot. Keep CJ Stroud upright. That is goal number one if you're the Texans. You're in a
Yeah.
terrible division, absolutely terrible. All you have to do is keep CJ Stroud from being under siege, and you can run that division for the next half decade pretty easily. But
Yep.
next up, we got the Rams, and it's been a moment since I've had a trade, so we're going to whip one up now. We're going to have the Los Angeles Rams be willing to trade back. We're going to have the New York Football Giants involved yet again. We're going to have them climb their way back up into the first round, whatever compensation it needs. They find their way up here to pick 26 to take Jackson Dart. I think they find their way to leave the first round with a quarterback. They leave this draft with a young quarterback. Somehow Joe Shane and Brian Dabblebeck, look, you can give us more than one more year. I promise. Yeah, we got a player to save our jobs in Will Campbell and our quarterback of the future, who might be your quarterback of the present, depending on the Russ and Jameis situation. So they find a way to get Jackson Dart. They get him on the 5-year first round rookie scale. And John Mara, after what's happened the last couple of years, he's looking at this like, we're not leaving this draft without the future. Figure it out, guys. I'm still mad at you over Saquon Barkley. You're lucky to be here. Go get our guy. And I think they find a way to get the guy.
If Nate is watching, I did not suggest this, Nate. This was not my suggestion. I do apologize to you, sir. We reset the draft when I made a bad opportunity pick for the Giants. So here we go. DJ gave him Jackson Dart. If you nobody knows, Nate Wynn, fantastic producer and host for a couple different shows on the network. Loves the Giants, but he hates Jackson Dart as their potential future quarterback. So.
He says that now until Jackson Dart starts throwing bombs to Malik Neighbors. One thing he does surprisingly well is he does hit the deep ball. It is surprising.
Yeah.
Well, he gives his guys a chance to make plays down the field pretty well. He does a good job getting it out there. When you have Malik Neighbors, just give him a shot.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. He will dart up the Cowboys at some point in time if he's a Giant.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. Now the Baltimore Ravens at 27. I don't get this, and I'm going to say this again because we talk about it every draft. How do the Baltimore Ravens end up in the back end of the first round every year, and yet somehow get a great opportunity to sneak in and just steal a draft pick every single time? And you might be looking at me, this board currently saying 23, 24, 26, 30, whatever. That's because defensive linemen, especially interior defensive linemen, are never ranked highly on boards. But my goodness, Kenneth Grant at 26 is a crime. And if Baltimore picks him up at 27, somebody needs to go to jail because this just doesn't make sense.
So we're both going to jail because we let this happen.
Yeah, and I'm not even just ranked where he's ranked at. That just feels like a crime. This guy is a top 10 position player or top 10 player, period. And in his position, he might be number one. And that is not a stretch to say, besides the fact his teammate Mason Graham is in the same position. And that's the only thing keeping him from being really the number one interior defensive lineman. So Kenneth Grant just makes way too much sense for Baltimore in this case.
It's funny because while Mason Graham has been unanimously the number one interior defensive tackle, there's a lot of scouts I've heard from that actually have him as like D tackle 3 or 4 because his ceiling's a little bit lower compared to Kenneth Grant, who's a lot more athletic. Walter Nolan, who's super twitchy, guys like that with a little bit higher upside, that little more disruptive getting after the pass, where Mason Graham's just going to eliminate your run game. And he could win quickly, but he's not going to win. He's not an elite pass rusher interior. He will just simply destroy your run game, where someone like Kenneth Grant can destroy your pass game more effectively too. So they're not complaining about getting him at pick 27. Pick number 28, this is tough because Derek Harmon is right there, and he's awesome. We talk about guys that probably don't need to be down this far. James Pierce is awesome. Corners, you have Maxwell, Ibuka, just to add to that offense even more. We're going to go with Donovan Iziraku. I think they just need somebody to go opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. He's the best edge on the board. Could go much higher in this draft, too. I've seen some that have him ranked as edge number 2 behind Carter. Some that have him as edge number 6. I think him or James Pierce are very live here. Either way, they're getting a great player. We're going to go with Donovan for now, though.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know if you can go wrong with a edge in this situation where we're looking at James Pierce or Iziraku. I think both are great picks. I don't mind the kid out of BC though compared to James Pierce. I don't necessarily love James Pierce as much as a lot of other people. I'm saying that knowing full well that I put Jared and Vince's big boards into something for the draft, and they both have him as a top 13 player. So James Pierce is a stud, but for me, I do like Ezeraku as a little bit more personally. So I don't mind that at all. Now, all that said, to say James Pierce goes right here to Washington immediately, I don't question this. Washington, go get your man.
Yeah, absolutely. They need some help on that defensive line, and that what better way to do it? Your offense with Laramie Tunsil, Debo, plus what you did last year, Jaden, you're set. Just get something for Dan Quinn to have a little bit of fun with defensively, and just get a few stops a game. So, pick number 30, we got the Buffalo Bills. It's another prime opportunity for a trade. I'm feeling it. I feel like having somebody else climb up into the first round, but we're not going to do it. I think the Bills like the way the draft board fell here as they look at it. I think they're going to stick and pick, and they're going to make, I'm going to call it a luxury pick here. They're going to take a Mecca Ibuka. I don't honestly think he's going to be available at this spot when the real draft comes tomorrow. Just the way both of our boards fell, he happened to slide down there. He is awesome. He is the epitome of a pro's pro, if you will. He's the all-time leading receiver in Ohio State history, if I'm not mistaken. And yet, statistically at least, and he was never the number one receiver. He was just always a pro's pro, always productive. Rumors are he's been an incredible interview, smooth route running, good hands, does everything well, just even if nothing's outstanding. You give Josh Allen MVP another weapon just to hopefully win a little bit more often than just Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman dunks. I think that just gives you another weapon. It's a bit of a luxury pick here. There's Derek Harmon might make more sense. Hairston, Josh Connolly, Josh Simmons. There's a lot of good picks, but they just give Josh Allen another weapon. Like, look, go do what you do, Josh Allen. They don't overthink it.
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Now, Kansas City at 31, I always struggle with Kansas City late in the draft because usually this is where they go and get that receiver that just blows by everybody. But yeah, I think this is offensive line. This is if they don't trade back. Part of me still feels like they're going to trade with somebody like a Carolina or a New York Jets situation. But for me, if I'm Kansas City, I'm going to look at that offensive line because your one downfall is offensive line in this situation. And as much as I like Simmons and Booker, I'm going to Oregon and I'm going and pulling Josh Connerly Jr. If you guys remember our first top 10 for the year, I put Connerly up there as number 9 or 10. He only slid back a little bit for me, but it was only because other guys jumped him. And so for me, Josh Connerly is still a fantastic opportunity. If you're going to go get him at this pick, 31, you're not going to get him at the end of round 2. So go get him now. It may be a slight reach, but it's not going to be a huge reach.
Not at all. That's a very good spot for him. And with Josh Simmons potentially coming off an injury, I can see this being a spot. If he's 100% healthy, he's long gone by now. Maybe they run to the board with him being healthy, but with that injury and Josh Connolly's right there, I could definitely see that pick, which leaves us, unfortunately, with the Philadelphia Eagles, and they can't keep getting away with it, but they are going to keep getting away with it. He's arguably a top 2 or 3 at his position, and he's just sitting there handily. They're going to continue to load up on it. They're going to take Derek Harmon, the defensive lineman out of Oregon, because they just load up on defensive linemen at the back end of the draft every year that have no business being there, but they just fall that way. Somehow in 2 years, Derek Harmon's going to replace somebody. He lost a ton of weight went from a nose tackle to a true defensive tackle, versatile 3 technique. Blew everybody away. Somehow they're going to say, hey, next year we need you to play edge. And next year, and then he's going to get 12 sacks. It's not fair, and the Eagles keep getting away with it, getting an elite player at pick 32. And that will be the first round for us, which, as we can see, we left some pretty good players on the board there because, well, frankly, after the top 3, a lot of it gets interchangeable between guys like Luther Burden, Siobhan Ravel, Josh Simmons, Tyler Booker, Jalen Milroe, who's going to be at the draft, and then the running backs, Travion Henderson, Benjamin Morris, who's a first-round pick if he's healthy. There's a lot of good players, and the second round is going to be a whole lot of fun, too.
Yeah, just for curiosity's sake, I don't want to make this pick, but let's just ask this question. If you're Cleveland and this board shakes out this way, where are you running to? Yeah, are you taking Jalen? Because for me, if you go back to corner, I look at Maxwell Hairston as my guy, or I'm looking at Siobhan Ravel, because I think for Cleveland in this situation, in round 3 is where I go get my quarterback if I didn't get him in the first round. Because round 3 is where I'm looking at guy who spent some time in Ohio and ended up getting shipped off to Syracuse and just broke down the ACC passing records.
I offer you one. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no. I was say if I'm Cleveland, that's a third or fourth round pick for me. I don't need to make that pick in the second round. So
I offer you one rebuttal. There is no more Nick Chubb around, but there is a guy who is known for tearing things up in the state of Ohio. In fact, there's two of them just sitting
yeah,
there right handily as well. So you know what? You reinvigorate your offense with a Travion Henderson and a Travis Hunter to go along with Joe Flacco. And yes, I said Joe Flacco, the one part that gets reinvigorated with age, not with youth, compared to the other options I have at quarterback. You know what? We could do a second round. We got time. So you know what? You're up. Who we taking
okay,
to pick?
we're gonna go second round. All right, then yeah, I go back to corner here, no doubt about it. And I'm not going Maxwell. I'm going Siobhan.
Sure. Okay. I had short term memory loss because I made a
No,
rash
you're
decision
good.
without thinking it
They're
through.
they're both so good though. It would be, to me, it's a toss up between the two. It's what do you prefer? But I think what this does is it gives an opportunity to Travis to kind of fail at corner in a lot of ways, and Cleveland still have a young, solid corner to work on. And I think either way, whether Travis succeeds at corner or not, having another corner back to back gives that relief to Travis that he doesn't have to kill it every time as a corner. He can be a great receiver and then a great nickel in a lot of cases. So I think that's why they go there.
Plus, you still have Denzel Ward and Martin Emerson, so that secondary gets real nice in a division with the Bengals and the Ravens and whatnot too, and the
Yeah.
Steelers now. So we're gonna run through the second round since we have less time, but we do have some time. The Rams get away with it. They get Josh Simmons, one of the better offensive linemen in the round two. They trade back and it pays off. Matthew Stafford stays alive a little longer.
Yeah. And then this one, Luther Burden, give Cam Ward a receiver to throw to. This one checks out for me.
Jacksonville, we're not going to go with Jalen Milroe, as hilarious as that would be. We're going to go with Maxwell Hairston. You know, no, we're going to call an audible. We're going to go with Tyler Booker. I don't care what the suggestion says. Keep Trevor Lawrence upright. Just keep him upright.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, for this one with Las Vegas, part of me does sneakily feel like it's going to be a Jalen Milroe upset. But I love Travion Henderson here. Give me the running back out of Ohio State.
An absolute burner to put in that backfield, too. And plus, you added him with Ted McMillan and Brock Bowers. That's a very fun offense, really quick. New England, I established it earlier. You need weapons. Help Drake May out whatsoever. I like that they have him as a suggestion. Put the ball up. That's what you can do with Jaden Higgins. The catch radius, just put the ball up. He will go get it.
Yeah, no, I love that for sure. Can you do me a favor? Go check tight ends for me real fast.
Tight ends, right there.
Oh, perfect. Mason Taylor to Chicago, just give me that. It'd either be him or Elijah Arroyo, but Mason Taylor, I think, fits that mold of what they want.
That'll be a lot of fun. Two tight end sets with him and Cole Kmet for sure.
Yep.
We have the Saints now. This is where I think they pull the trigger. I think they will grab Jalen Milroe. I don't know what's going on with Derek Carr's shoulder. If worst case scenario is he turns into Taysom Hill at this point, they just bring him in there, and hopefully Derek Carr quits throwing Chris Olave into the infirmary. Jalen Milroe will at least miss him by such a mile he won't get hit.
Yeah, no, that's fair. New England, I kind of hate the fact they have corner as a suggested pick here. They did just get a couple corners. Gonzalez is healthy this year. I don't know if I would go and take that pick here. I do love the offensive line pick, though, in Donovan Jackson. I love Donovan Jackson's skills. That he's also one of those offensive linemen I think should be off the board probably sooner. But for some reason, offensive linemen, especially from Ohio State, they don't get drafted well usually. So in this case, Donovan Jackson, second round, just makes a lot of sense.
New England is loading up on offense. Good for Drake May. Hopefully they follow this. But the New York Football Jets, we're going to go a little bit off script here because they did lose DJ Reed. I know everyone loves Sauce Gardner. They're going to take Benjamin Morris in the corner out of Notre Dame. Would be a first-round pick if he didn't have all those hip surgeries. His tape is incredible. Watching him play is incredible. Injuries are the only thing knocking him. If he's cleared, he's gone in the top 20. But for now, we have him there because of injuries. Jets now have two lockdown corners.
Oh, that makes sense. For me, Maxwell Harrison here to San Francisco also just makes sense. Get a corner, get skill. I love Maxwell Harrison. It just didn't love him earlier. That's basically all it is.
I get that. We're going to go to edge, and we're going to go with Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M. Just get somebody to play with Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins. I feel like Tyrese Wilson, they're starting to get a little meh with, just to load up on that pass rush a little bit.
No, I love that. Actually, can you go right back to that? Because in Indy here, I love Landon Jackson as an opportunity for Indy. He's a guy that we've all seen the goofy video of him slapping the bags going by during a camp. He's actually a really talented edge rusher. So give me Landon Jackson going into Indy here.
Death taxes and the Colts taking an edge player and a defensive lineman in the top 2 rounds for the 8th out of 9th year or whatever it was. And sorry, Landon Jackson, that's kind of a death note for your career. I'm sorry, guy. But Atlanta, pick number 46. They finally took an edge. Thank goodness they finally did it. That now they're going to have to replace Grady Jarrett with Darius Alexander, the interior defensive lineman out of Toledo. They've put a lot of resources in offense the last few years. They finally do something on defense.
Yeah, I love that. Arizona needs offensive line though to keep Kyler up. Give me Orante or Ursere. Ursere. I always mess up his last name. But yeah, give me a kid out of Minnesota, offensive tackle, absolute stud, a monster of a man too.
You know what? The suggestions is on point right now because they were thinking the same thing I were. You got to fix that secondary, like you said. Jahdae Barron's a great fit. Let's double down. Let's get Xavier Watts, the awesome safety out of Notre Dame. Replace Javon Holland a little bit, or we'll see what happens with Jalen Ramsey and how they figure it out with him, Jahdae Barron, etc. But they need playmakers.
Yeah, I love that. Can you do me a favor? Go to safety. It's not good enough for that reach. Then in that case, let's go to edge or D line. D line. Yep. Let's go TJ Sanders out of South Carolina. I don't hate Tyleik Williams, but I think TJ Sanders is a better athlete for what they want to do. And again, you need to rebuild that defensive side because you have the offense locked up.
Absolutely. And this is a tough spot for Seattle. I could see them very much trying to trade back. Problem is, I don't think anyone's going to want to trade with them. So we're going to give them an offensive lineman because you have Sam Darnold. You don't want the ghosts to come back. I think they're going to go interior. We're going to go with Tate Ratledge, the interior out of Georgia, just to keep pressure from getting right in Sam Darnold's face.
Oh, I love that. Actually, you don't even have to go anywhere because number 54 down there, Kinshawn Judkins to Denver. Check. Call it. Put it on the board. Absolutely going to love his time with Bo Nix. Bo Nix needs a solid running back there, and Kinshawn Judkins will run with him for a long time.
You see them doubling down, going Hampton and Judkins. You see them Sean Payton doubling down on the running back.
You took Hampton. Just kidding. All right, we're pivoting, guys. We're pivoting. You know what? Carson Schweizinger, UCLA. Let's do that. That's my back. That was my backup option as well. But I was like, I love the idea of them getting Judkins.
Honestly, if I didn't panic and give him Hampton in the first round, it'd probably make a little bit more sense. The way the board fell, that would have been a great pick there for sure. Yeah. Seattle yet again. Gosh, I'd love to give them Judkins, but they are near loaded at running back. Defensive line, I think they're solid. Corner, they're solid. I don't know why they're suggesting these. Like, I don't think those are as big of needs, but that is just me. No, I think receiver, someone like Jalen Noah would make a lot of sense. We're gonna reach for this one. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna give him Kyle Williams, a receiver out of Washington State. Ooh. I think he is going to surprise people where he gets drafted. He's a big athletic body. Chris Sims had him as the number 2 overall receiver. Chris Sims says a lot of good things and a lot of bad things. I think there's some validity to it. He's an awesome receiver. So we'll say Seattle adds him with Cooper Kupp and JSN.
I definitely thought you were going Jalen Royals, which I thought was a really interesting pick. I love Jalen Royals as an opportunity for a lot of teams.
It was in there.
Yeah. But so for Tampa, I could go Kinshawn Judkins again, but I'm not going to. They need a corner. I'm going to take Thomas out of Florida State. I do like Trey Amos, but I'm going to go with Thomas instead for the fit purpose. I think he fits better with Tampa's scheme.
Absolutely. And they, rebuilding that defense to kind of what they had with their new offense can make them a very viable contender yet again, as they already kind of are. Yeah. Green Bay, I feel like the answer is still defense, even though they've spent so many resources on defense recently. But there is still the looming cloud of where is Yair Alexander playing next year? Is it Green Bay? Is it somewhere else? Trey Amos gives them a little bit of security, and maybe Yair Alexander gets moved and they end up at the top end of the second round. So either way, we're going to get some corner security.
No, that makes a lot of sense. All right, could you do me a favor and go to wide receiver on this one?
I believe we can do that. Giving somebody to go with Matthew Golden too and Ladd McConkey. They're going antithesis of last year. Now we're going all weapons.
Yeah, I think in this one we're gonna go with. Man, I didn't think I was gonna have the opportunity for 2 of them here, but we'll go with Jalen Noah, and we're gonna give him the kid out of Iowa State because. At this point in time, you need weapons. You got this is Justin Herbert's chance if you're going to be the Chargers.
I like how this played out because that means the Buffalo Bills, they get the double down on the Ohio State. Not JT, not Tyleik. They're going to bring in Kinshawn Judkins. The potential James Cook holdout on the horizon, we will see. And if he doesn't hold out, having those 2 in your backfield with Josh Allen is going to feed families. So Kinshawn Judkins heads over to Buffalo.
No, I like that. That's a really good pick.
Just right down the lake.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go for Carolina with another receiver. This one's Trey Harris to me. this is just you got to get weapons again. This is another one where your quarterback needs an opportunity. You need weapons to throw to. I'm sorry, Adam Thielen is not the weapon he once was.
Not anymore, at least. But for we have Houston up next. Once again, another live potential trade option here. I feel like they're gonna stick. I think they're gonna stick with offense, and they're gonna go with Caleb Johnson. I think we're gonna see a little bit of a run of running backs too. Pair with Joe Mixon. He is really, really good. I know he's at Iowa and they score like 3 points every 17 quarters, but he's just really, really good.
Yeah, no, I like that. All right, you ready for this one? Because I could go double down defense with
Hmm.
the Ravens, but it's not the first round, guys. We're not doing that. We're going with, I'm going to see if I can get this right. Jonah Savayanea out of Arizona. I think he's just, look, get the offensive line, get the interior. You're not going to be solid there for much longer. You need to start getting some younger talent, and he can slide in and play tomorrow if you need to. So that's my best opportunity for the Ravens.
I like the pick, and this is a very, very good draft for defensive linemen. I think that defensive linemen and running backs are the cream of the crop in this draft, and I do think that means Detroit's going to be willing to double down. I don't think they want to be in a position like they were last year, where as soon as Aiden Hutchinson went down, that pass rush went to you know what. So I
Yeah.
think they will double down here. They will take Princely, Human, and I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry. I practice it, but I always get it wrong. Either way, they are going to
Yeah,
load
no.
up on that defensive line, so they are going to get after it.
Yeah, that is one that I will butcher every tomorrow. I will butcher it the next day. I will butcher it the day after that. So I'm glad you tried to pronounce it, and not me. On that note, though, Washington, I already gave you an edge. We need offensive line. We we need to get some offensive line in here. Fortunately, let's go to interior. That's a reach to get to William Mary, Charles Grant.
Good trade
Um,
that.
no, we'll pivot for this one. We'll end up back at linebacker for this one. Let's see what we got. Man, they really are. Danny Stutzman. They're not high on Danny Stutzman at all. So
Hmm.
we'll leave that alone. Let's just go best overall, and we'll go with Tyleek. Makes sense. I'll say it's either Tyleek or Alfred Collins in this situation. So we'll go Tyleek in this one.
You got to replace Jonathan Allen in the interior, so it makes sense. Buffalo, they've gone a little bit on offense. Now they somehow get a player. I think they could have reasonably taken at the end of round one in JT Tuimoloau. Just another guy to get after the passer. With that trade back, Buffalo kind of makes out like a bandit in this draft so far with those first handful of picks. They look really nice. 3 Ohio State kids did not plan that whatsoever. It just happened to work out that way.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, speaking of Ohio State, I think this is the opportunity for yet another national champion Ohio State player to come off the board and go right across the way from another previous Big Ten standout defensive edge. And I think Jack Sawyer ends his way into Kansas City, and they get bookend White Boy Summers.
You know what? It works, and all you have to do is just let Chris Jones take the double teams, then you go win your one-on-one matchups. And
Yeah.
we're going to round this out with we're going to give this one as an ode to Jared. Elijah Arroyo, tight end from Miami, heads over to Philadelphia. Honestly, Dallas Goddard's been in trade rumors. They need tight end help. He's the best one on the board. So we say tight end heads to Philadelphia, and that is our impromptu 2-round draft, not just the 1 round like we joked about earlier. We cruised through it so quickly, we decided to have a little bit of fun. So
Yeah.
let us know down in the comments below what you guys think of the mock draft, who you think is going where, who you want your team to take. And of course, more importantly, if you don't want to do that right now, be sure to tune in tomorrow for the first round of the draft. And yes, this time it will be just the first round because we don't have a say in it. For the entirety of the first round, DJ, Kelcey, the High Low Sports Gang, and over half a dozen other Belly Up Sports and online sports creators will be joining us from all around the country to react, break down, analyze, and hopefully not completely poop on all of the picks 1 through 32 in the first round, all the trades, all the mocks, everything you think of comes to culmination where we will be breaking it down live with an interactive chat too. So an alternative way to watch the draft with an interactive chat. Come in there, say what's up, let us know what you think of the picks, where you think people are going to go, etc. It's going to be a great time. Come hang out, enjoy the draft with us and a bunch of others. It's going to be a great time, just like it has been the last few years. And you can make fun of some of the people who might short circuit if their team takes somebody stupid. Like, I'm not saying that we've seen it before, but we've seen some questionable picks and we've seen some fans of them short circuit. So, and you know what? It might be me or Kelcey this time. You never know.
Well, it won't be me this year. That's the good news. Is I am, like I said, I am a free agent this year, so
You
I'm
might
not
just
tied to
freak
a
out at all
team.
with bad picks then.
But it does mean I could still freak out on any team having a bad pick. And that's just no surprise. I mean, I remember Bill Belichick and getting Cole Strange and thinking, oh, wow, that's a strange pick. Especially since his dog made the pick, I guess, at this point in time. So, but I think this is gonna be a fun draft, and I love this every year. I hope everybody tunes in, chats it up in the conversation, and gives us their takes on any of the picks, and enjoy the conversation and the hopefully good vibes. But then again, we have a crazy crew of characters coming in. I'm trying to say that 3 times fast because I couldn't even make it one. But yeah, it's gonna be a lot of entertaining conversation, so it should be fun.
Absolutely. Join us in the crazy cast of characters on the Belly Up Sports YouTube, Facebook, and X pages. That's where you'll be able to catch us live from 8 p.m. till whatever pick number 32 wraps up, and a bunch of others as well. We can't wait to see you all tomorrow. Thank you all so much for joining with us, and we'll see you all again next time.